Imagine you owe someone money, but instead of paying them back, you just print more money. And instead of getting angry, the whole world nods and says, fine, that works. That is not a thought experiment. That is Tuesday for the United States of America. And the reason it works, the reason the US can run a $14 trillion trade deficit over the last 2 decades and still have the world's most trusted currency, is one of the most quietly audacious arrangements in the history of human civilization. It is called dollar dominance, and almost nobody talks about how it actually works. Here is why you should care about this today. In the last 3 years, China, Russia, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and India have all held meetings, sometimes together, sometimes separately, about one subject: how to stop using the dollar. When the countries that represent nearly half the world's population start coordinating to abandon your currency, something is happening, something structural, something that does not make the front page until it is far too late. To understand what they're trying to escape, you have to go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of money, the beginning of American financial control, which starts, like most wild stories, in the middle of a war. The year is 1944. World War II is still going. Europe is in ruins, and 44 nations send representatives to a small resort town in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods. The question on the table: what does global money look like after this war? For centuries, countries settled debts in gold. You export more than you import, you get paid in gold. Simple, finite, fair. But gold is heavy. Gold is slow. And after a war that cost the world roughly $4 trillion in today's money, nobody had enough of it. The United States had a proposal: use the dollar instead. America would back every dollar with gold, $35 per ounce, guaranteed. Every other currency would be pegged to the dollar. The dollar would be the anchor of the entire global financial system, and in exchange, America would be responsible, disciplined, trustworthy. 44 countries said yes. What they may not have fully appreciated was that they had just handed the United States a superpower that no military could ever provide. Here's the mechanism, stripped to its bones. Most global trade, oil, wheat, semiconductors, shipping containers, is priced in dollars, not because of any law, because of convention, inertia, and the fact that everyone else is doing it. Which means if Japan wants to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, they need dollars. If Brazil wants to buy soybeans from Argentina, they often still use dollars. If a Vietnamese company wants to finance a deal with a German company, the loan is probably in dollars. To get dollars, countries need to earn dollars, which means they need to export things Americans want to buy, which means they keep producing, keep shipping, keep trading, all to accumulate a currency that one country alone can create from nothing. And here's where it gets genuinely strange. Because all those countries, Japan, China, South Korea, Germany, end up holding billions, sometimes trillions of American dollars in reserve. And you can't just sit on cash. Cash loses value. So they do the logical thing. They invest it. They buy US Treasury bonds. They lend money back to America. The country that spent the money gets a loan from the country it spent the money on. If that sentence felt slightly criminal, you understood it correctly. Now here is where the story takes a turn. By 1971, America had been spending heavily. The Vietnam War, the space race, social programs, deficits, and countries, in particular France, started getting suspicious. They started asking for their gold. The gold America had promised at $35 an ounce. On a Sunday night in August of 1971, President Nixon went on television and made an announcement that changed everything. America was no longer converting dollars to gold. Just like that, the promise of 1944, gone. The dollar was now backed by nothing but the word of the US government and the size of the US economy. Economists called it the Nixon shock. The world called it a crisis. But then something remarkable happened. Nothing collapsed. The dollar stayed dominant because within 2 years, the United States had quietly engineered a replacement system that was even more powerful than the gold peg, the petrodollar. In 1973, the United States cut a deal with Saudi Arabia. America would guarantee Saudi security, military protection, weapons, political cover. Saudi Arabia, in exchange, would sell oil only in US dollars and would encourage the rest of OPEC to do the same. Oil is the blood of the modern economy. Every country needs it, and now every country needed dollars to buy it. The gold backing was gone, but the demand for dollars had been permanently hardwired into the energy system. Bretton Woods was dead. The petrodollar had taken its place, quietly, efficiently, without a single vote. So what does this system actually cost the rest of the world? Here's one way to think about it. When a poor country borrows money from the IMF or World Bank, that loan is in dollars. If their local currency weakens against the dollar, which it tends to do because demand for dollars is structurally high, their debt grows in local terms, even if they haven't borrowed a single cent more. Countries have gone bankrupt not because they spent more, but because the dollar got stronger. And here's the other side. America runs a trade deficit every single year. It imports more than it exports. In any other country, that would be a warning sign. It would weaken your currency. It would raise your borrowing costs. But because everyone needs dollars, demand stays high, the dollar stays strong, and America keeps importing, keeps consuming, financed by the rest of the world's need for its currency. The economist Barry Egan-Green called this an exorbitant privilege. The French finance minister called it something less polite. It is, at its core, a tax. Not a tax that shows up on a form, a structural tax, paid by every country that holds dollars, buys oil, or borrows in the global financial system. Paid to the United States of America simply for having its currency be the world's default. And now, back to those meetings. China, Russia, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, India. In 2023, Saudi Arabia announced it was open to trading oil in currencies other than the dollar. China and Russia now settle a significant portion of their bilateral trade in yuan and rubles. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have been openly discussing a reserve currency of their own. The dollar's share of global reserves has fallen from about 73% in 2000 to around 58% today. Still dominant, still the anchor, but moving. And here's the uncomfortable question underneath it all. Dollar dominance was not a law of nature. It was a deal made in 1944 in a resort in New Hampshire by countries that had no better option, reinforced in 1973 by a handshake with Saudi Arabia, maintained for decades by inertia, convenience, and the absence of a credible alternative. None of those things are permanent. So here's where we land. The dollar controls the world not because America deserves it, not because gold backs it, not even because the US economy is the largest, though it is. The dollar controls the world because of a feedback loop that has been running for 80 years. Everyone uses dollars because everyone else uses dollars. And changing that requires a coordination problem that no country has yet solved. But coordination problems do get solved, eventually. The euro was supposed to be the alternative. It wasn't. The yuan is supposed to be the next challenger. Maybe. A BRICS currency sounds compelling until you remember that Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa agree on almost nothing. The dollar probably does collapse. Not this year, possibly not this decade. But the world is slowly and deliberately building the architecture to make that choice. And the moment that architecture is ready, the moment oil can be priced in something else, the moment a country can borrow globally without touching dollars, the moment the feedback loop breaks, the most profitable deal in modern history ends, and nobody's quite sure what comes next. That, depending on your perspective, is either the most interesting financial story of the 21st century or the most frightening one, possibly both.